Sayed ma'am with us, and we are going in this live. We are going to discuss about the astronauts and how physiotherapist helps their lungs to keep in a proper way. So, Dr. Samana ma'am is a cardiopulmonary physiotherapist and also the co-founder of U360 Healthcare Academy and the professor at National University of Medical Sciences in Spain. So, thank you, ma'am, for joining and giving your valuable time.
Thank
So,
you.
so let us begin with our first question, ma'am. Why is lung health so important for astronauts?
So first of all, thank you for the introduction and inviting me, Dr. Vibha. It's really good to know that this is the cardiopulmonary is a new topic of interest for everyone, especially after COVID, and now after our great Sunita Williams have highlighted, the team has highlighted about the importance of physiotherapy. The interest towards this topic has increased, and I think every rehab specialist should know about how your lung changes in different atmosphere. Before going
Yes,
with your question, we have been studying about different lung changes in high altitude training already, underwater training, right? Because that is a
yes,
part of your exercise physiology that you should know. And now that is the reason now space is also a concept that we should know, because
mm,
the lung mechanics changes with everything. In fact, I would give you an example. If you're sitting in a closed room and the moment you go out inside open, your uh, the way you breathe, the quality of your breathe when breathing changes.
yes,
So now
yes, yes,
imagine
ma'am.
when you're doing something in earth and when you're doing something outside the globe, it's a different story in the universe. So that is
Exactly.
one thing you have to really consider. So when we talk about lung health for astronauts, like why is it an important factor in everything? Because of course it's your vital organ. You cannot survive without oxygen, you cannot survive without removing carbon dioxide from your body. And
Yes, ma'am.
when we are in, or like when we are on earth, we have a very major factor that supports our system, that is gravity, right? So we have
Yes.
this, if we have this ventilation perfusion mismatch, or matching that is happening in our lungs. That matching is maintained by the gravity factor. Ventilation means just the oxygen that we inhale, and when this oxygen mixes up with the blood, it goes to the rest of the parts of your body, and that's how we function. When we say oxygen is carried by blood, that is because of a good perfusion. All this mechanism happens with gravity. Now the
Okay.
gravity is eliminated or reduced, so then
Mm,
what will be the effect? So now what happens, if you know that our entire blood, when the blood mixed oxygen that is carried in the lower parts and it goes down because of the gravity. Now this pull is only not there. So definitely
mm-hmm.
what will happen, this pooling will just push
Change.
upwards.
Yeah,
So
upwards. Yes.
basically what happens, there is a fluid shift. That is a major factor. So when we talk about
Okay.
lung health, the best part is that not much of the lung mechanics when it comes to tidal volumes and capacity is affected in space. Why? Because when we are in gravity, we have this perfusion, like blood pooling downwards and more ventilation upwards. But when the gravity is eliminated, somehow there is an even distribution of the gases. So
Okay.
you could say there is a slight favorable mechanism when it comes to that part. But what is not favorable is that the blood pooling goes upwards. So not just lungs, it affects your heart functions as well. So now imagine
Oh.
something is pushing. Like normally, when a person who is obese, when they sleep, what
Mm,
pushes up? Their abdominal pushes your lungs, abdominal muscles. And that is the reason the patient goes into obstruction, breathlessness. Now here the
mm,
body's fluid is pushing up your lungs or your organs. So basically, in cases where the gravity is eliminated, what we see is there is a lot of facial puffiness and nasal congestion. So the nasal congestion is a very important issue in these cases where we have to really work on the lung mechanism so that they don't end up into this thing. That is one factor. So now why lung health is important? They are in a closed circuit. They are
mm.
not in an open environment. Okay, where the atmosphere can, we can coordinate with it and take in the oxygen or remove the carbon dioxide as per our need. And because when you are outside, you have a huge amount of oxygen, gases, everything in the atmosphere. Here, everything is planned and installed. So whatever you are
Okay.
consuming, whatever you are removing is calculated. And that is the reason this synchronization is only maintained when the patient, when the astronaut has got a good lung mechanics, a very strong respiratory muscles, and a good control over inhalation and exhalation. So,
Okay.
this is one thing where we have to be very cautious. So, lung health is not just important because, you have your pooling is going upward as compared to a normal lung on the earth. When the gravity is there, in a gravity eliminated lung, there is a slight mismatch of ventilation and perfusion, definitely, but which is not too major or life threatening for them. So that also you have to calculate, because if you're not able to have that balance in inhalation and exhalation, then this small thing can become severe and that can affect your lung functions. Now, the second
Okay.
important thing why we say it is so important when it comes to your lung health is the dust, the particles does not settle down. So when you are in a
Oh.
gravity area, everything settles down, right? Either on the
Mm-hmm.
leaves or on the sand or ground. Here, everything is just, you can say, in the air. So, nothing
Oh.
settles down. So now imagine you are in a closed room, okay, and there is an equipment failure or a smoke. What will happen? You will immediately inhale it,
Yes.
immediately, because that particles are very much inhalable, not settling down. So that is one of the worst thing, and that is something to be really considered, because inhalational illness, respiratory illnesses because of inhalation, respiratory and airway irritation because of inhalation of any small particle or fumes, that is something very dangerous when it comes to such conditions. So again, training an astronaut to how to overcome these conditions is important. So basically, when we talk about lung mechanics, not just lung strengthening, knowing how to adapt to the environment is important. Emergency conditions are the top priority when we train an astronaut in these conditions. Why?
Okay.
Because when they wear a space suit, fine,
Yes,
and there is
yes.
differences in the pressure when they are in the space circuit. So the
Mm-hmm.
pressure, what we have inside the soup, it's like walking under the water. That's
Oh.
how it is, walking under the water. And that is how they are trained. They are trained with the natural buoyancy, neutral buoyancy. They are trained with making them wear the space suit under the water when they have water. So there will be a lot of pressure changes inside and outside. So
Exactly.
there is where your emergency mechanism comes in. Suppose there is a leak in the suit. So how you will
Mm-hmm.
control? So in these such situations is where you need to know how to control your lung mechanics. Like usually you cannot hold your breath. You have to learn a good exhalation in these conditions. Otherwise, you will have lung barotrauma. That is how, these are the things that we take care of. So, yes, lung health is super important for them. Now, you move to another question, and there is something more about which I would like to tell you, that what is a main important factor, because it's not just about lungs. You cannot focus only
Okay.
about lungs when it comes to lung health. You will have to focus on everything: sensory, your motor, your musculoskeletal, your cognitive functions, because everything constitutes a good cardiopulmonary fitness.
ओके
So,
बट मैम फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन से ही हमें काफ़ी चीज़ें पता चली जो नहीं है, आई थिंक एज़ अ स्टूडेंट जानने के लिए एंड दैट्स वेरी
right.
इंटरेस्टिंग।
Thank you. I'm glad.
ओके,
So let's
थैंक
go
यू
to
मैम।
the second question so that we can put more knowledge into this.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. So, ma'am, the
Yeah.
second question is how does flying at high altitudes or going into space affects breathing and lung function?
So now I was waiting for this question, something like this actually. So
Mhm.
yeah, so uh, now I would come to the second part. That is, it's not just the lungs. The major affection that we
Okay.
have when you're not in a gravity assisted area, is your musculoskeletal strength. See, now over here we have a continuous proprioception of a joint, a weight bearing. We are properly balanced with the weight and resistance that we have when we do our activity. You're able to walk because you're able
Mm.
to put your foot down and walk. Over
Mm.
there, it's like a free weight. Your body is actually hanging, you can say, right? So
Okay.
basically, the musculoskeletal issues are very prominent when you are not in a gravity assisted area, when the gravity is eliminated or you're in a microgravity area. So basically, the worst complications that you can have is reduced muscle strength, endurance, reduced fibers of muscles, atrophy of muscles, the muscle weakness that you can get, osteoporosis, that is reduced mineral density, reduced like bone demineralization, a lot of things that can affect your musculoskeletal health. Now, don't you have a respiratory muscles over here?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
diaphragm, your intercostals, your all the muscles are also a muscle which
Mm.
functions similarly and has the same property. It is a muscle. So basically, what happens when the entire body musculature affects, the respiratory muscle systems can also go into the same way, can
Okay.
deteriorate in the same way. And if your respiratory muscle strength is reduced, automatically your ventilation will get affected, the lung
Mm.
expansion and recoil will get affected. And as I
Mm.
said, when you are in the space, the main mechanism is how you control your lung mechanics. So that's how it is interconnected. Now, one more thing, not just the lung, the major effect more than the lung is on your heart. And of course, your
Mm.
heart and lungs are your neighbors. So
Mm.
definitely any deterioration in your lung mechanics will definitely affect your heart and vice versa, right? So basically
Yes.
cardiomegaly, reduced stroke volume, because something is pushing, the fluid is shifted up. So that is
Mm.
why what happens is your stroke volume, your cardiac output, your heart functions are majorly affected. And because of that, definitely your entire cardiovascular and your respiratory mechanics can get affected. And the worst thing is when they come back to earth, orthostatic hypotension is very common. That
Oh.
again, inhibits rest of the movements. So basically that is the reason that training is important and getting back is important. Because I can just see one question below that, how physiotherapy, what is the scope of physiotherapy? There is where your scope is. If you have read the articles about Sunita Williams coming back to earth, it was actually highlighted everywhere. She will have to go 45 days of minimum 45 days of rehabilitation. Why? Because these
Okay.
are the reasons: your musculoskeletal atrophy, your osteoporosis, your bone density, your cardiac functions, a lot of issues are there that can get affected. So the person, when he is for a long duration outside in a gravity eliminated area, it is very difficult to get back to the natural environment, what we call as
Mm.
natural. The body will not really be having or up to the mark of that strength and endurance that we usually need to live our daily life. So that is where our role comes into picture. Not just preparing the astronaut to go and live there and be there for a certain duration of the time, how to work on the cardiovascular system, the entire exercise physiology, and then once they are returned, getting them back to now get adapted again to the earth
Normal
mechanics, the
life.
gravity assisted, and then again retraining them to go into a gravity eliminated area. So see, imagine how many
Yeah.
different steps the physiotherapy practice can be included in these training of the astronauts.
Exactly, ma'am. Exactly. And this is very important for the students as well as for the people to understand कि इतना भी importance है physiotherapy में, because
Right.
many of the people think कि it is not expanded till space or till astronauts. This is a very
If
interesting
I
topic
would just
actually.
add one thing out of the context. If you
Yes,
think
ma'am.
that it is not expanded, that means you have not read enough. So
Okay.
it is not about that you are saying, it is about that your knowledge about how
Hmm.
well the scope of physiotherapy has increased over the years is limited. That's all I
Yes,
always say.
yes,
Go
yes.
and read where all you can put your work and effort. You will be amazed to see your role itself if you will really read about the scope of physiotherapy in today's generation. Trust me on this.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. And your insights are so valuable that the aspiring physios will be amazed कि हमें भी cardio में ही जाना है.
Yeah, please, it's one of the most beautiful field. I always say, if I can do it, then you can do much better than me.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So, ma'am, let's move on to our next question. So, that is, what kind of breathing problems do astronauts face?
So, as I said, that of course lung irritation is an issue because of, the dust particles and everything does not settle. That is one thing. Second thing, because of pooling, there is some the fluid shifting towards the upper body as compared to the lower
Mhm.
body. There is sometimes, episodes of dyspnea is common in these conditions. Okay. Now, the thing is that as you go into dyspnea, there is a possibility that if it is not managed or controlled, that cognitive functions can also get affected. Now, third thing, if you would see about this thing, is your respiratory muscle weakness. If your body is going into muscle weakness, reduced muscle strength, reduced endurance, it will affect your overall respiratory mechanics. Automatically, the lung function will get affected. So, if you remember, I have told you in the beginning that it's not about just training the patient's lung. It is
Mhm.
about how to control the lung mechanics when the patient is in any emergency condition. Because the problem is they are completely dependent on the space circuit. Okay, and the space, this thing that usually, if you would say the space walks, how to walk maintaining that lung mechanics, the space suits they are wearing. So basically their entire system is dependent on this. And imagine if there is any malfunction in any of these, there is where your lung control comes into picture, because lung barotrauma is something, it's like, I would give you an example. Usually the pressure is lower in the circuit, as in the spacesuit, as compared to what is outside. So suppose if there is a minute leak in the spacesuit as well, so what can happen is immediately your lung can go into barotrauma. Suddenly there can be boiling of the fluids inside your body, there can be immediate reduced of cognitive function, the patient can go into severe hypoxia as well, if the patient is not able to, or if if by any chance the person, the astronaut is holding the breath, because holding the breath can lead to immediate barotrauma. So
Oh,
that is why you should have that control, that you're exhaling properly, and your exhalation is important. So there where your diaphragm strength comes into picture, because when you have to exhale profusely, you should have a good core, good diaphragm, and a good abdominal muscle strength. But now, as I said, your respiratory muscles are getting affected as well, because a muscle gets affected. If that is not strong, then again your emergency condition will be an issue. So it's again, as I said, it's not just lungs, it's musculoskeletal plus lung plus sensory plus cognitive function, how to control their
exactly.
psychological effects as well. So everything is trained, you have to take care of everything. So if I want to concise it to the breathing difficulty, definitely, as I said, uh, mainly by God's grace, luckily, I would say by God's grace only, that the lung functions are not majorly affected. But yes, there can be slight VYQ mismatch, slight ventilation issue, but dyspnea because of all the rest of the factors that I've explained.
Okay, okay. Means everything is connected and interlinked to
Every
each other.
Yes,
Exactly.
everything is connected. That is why I always say, you are never, even if you're a sports physio or a cardio physio or a neuro physio, you're a physio first. So don't just take the
Mm.
patient like ki jaise, how we have in dermatology and cosmetology, eye specialists. We are blessed to actually give a holistic approach to every patient.
Mm.
So always have that point of view, that whenever the patient comes to you, you should have that holistic approach towards the patient. So it shouldn't be just for the lungs or the heart. It should be from head to toe. And that's how we work
Okay.
over here.
Definitely, ma'am. So this is a very good mindset for the aspiring physios and those who have completed their internship, if any of them are watching this. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Now let's move on to the next question. That is, what specific breathing exercise are given to astronauts to improve their lung function?
See, when I would say specific breathing exercises, first
Mm.
comes the general treatment only. That is the respiratory
Okay,
muscle
okay,
strengthening. So when I say
okay.
general treatment, that doesn't mean you're just basic pursed lip, diaphragmatic, respiratory muscle
Mm.
strengthening. Along with the, basically how we do the diaphragmatic expansion and everything, that is of course taught to the patient, taught to the astronaut. But respiratory muscle strength is one of the most important aspect of training a astronaut before getting them acquainted to the space circuit. So if there is these space stations, they are especially designed like 250 miles above from the earth, so that we can train them at a near normal space atmosphere, and then before they have any kind of scheduled space travels. So
Mm.
basically, usually the rehabilitation takes place for 6 months or something accordingly, as per the scheduled travel. So first you have
Oh.
to train them to go to that in the circuit that is designed accordingly, so that they know how their body will respond. And during that duration only, the role of rehabilitation is very important. There is where physiotherapists have to train the patient, train the person. For example, I'll tell you, let's not talk about lungs, let's talk about
Mm.
cardiorespiratory fitness, because it's not just about
Okay.
breathing exercise, it is about the entire cardiorespiratory fitness. And
Yes, yes.
usually what do we do when it's like for a normal person, if I'll ask you, chalo, come on, let's go and do cardio, jao chalo cardio karke aao, sabse pehle dimag mein kya aata hai? Treadmill, walking,
Jogging,
cycling,
walking.
yes or no, right? So of course
Yes.
that is an important part as well. But now the thing is, do you think that treadmill walking and that cycling or walking will be suitable for a person who is in the space where your actually legs and hands are hanging in the air? There is
No, no,
no
no.
contact with the ground. So that's why you have to train them accordingly. So yes, treadmill training is important for cardiorespiratory fitness, but it is given with the harness. So there
Okay.
is a, yeah, there is a special design treadmill that we use, a cycle ergometer without the vibration sensations, which we use for these kinds of sessions, like for astronauts, which is basically, either in the space stations or before that, pre and post. Accordingly, we have to design. So there are specific equipment, still tables and everything, so that they know how to adjust with the changes in the blood pressures in your body as well, the mechanics of your bodies. So there are certain equipments that are designed specially for the space, where we try to eliminate, we try to strengthen, like the resistive training devices. You cannot do
Okay.
free weightlifting over there. So that is
Hmm.
why we have a new curated design for the device, which is called as a resistive device, especially which we use for the use at space stations, which helps in improving the strength and endurance of your muscle.
Okay.
So that's how you have to work. First, you have to think where the astronaut is going, and then we give them spacesuit training underwater. That is natural, neutral buoyancy training that we give, for especially for the lower limbs and lower NBC, what we call it as. And a lot of other stuff as well. So these are the trainings that we give to the people for improving the cardiorespiratory, muscular, and the entire neurophysiological functioning. Now that is one thing. And when it comes to the breathing part, you have to add your respiratory muscle training into this. That means you have to add strengthening the diaphragm muscle, your intercostals, your all the
Hmm.
accessory muscles as
Abdomen.
well. When you actually learn, when you study during your bachelor's and all, they always tell you, try not the person to use their, help them not to use their
Accessory
accessory muscle.
muscles.
But we need
Yes.
to understand that is an accessory muscle, because that will save you when your main muscles are not working, right? So
Yes.
that is
Yes.
like
True.
everything we have to train. It is not just diaphragm or the major muscles. It is your sternocleidomastoid, your entire pectorals, your rhomboids, everything. Latissimus dorsi. Every muscle strengthening is important for the lung function to be prevailed. So you can use various devices also as well. You have power breathers. You have inspiratory muscle trainers. You have expiratory muscle trainers, where you can design the change the resistance of the devices as per the requirement of the astronaut. And then after that, what you can do is, you can put that into you can combine that with the resistance training, or you can have the respiratory muscle trainer and ask the patient to do a cycle ergometer, which is specially designed for the space stations. That's how we coordinate with the movements and respiratory muscle training together to train them. So
Okay.
these are not just the basic breathing exercises that we do, but it is much more than that, where you have to work on the lung function, and then we control. How we, for example, I mean, definitely it won't suit that much, but for labor also, you have to train the female to,
Yes.
have that control of inhalation and exhalation if you want to go for a normal delivery,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's not a very suitable example, but being a female, I think a lot of physios can relate. That is why I'm using this. Similarly, you have to have that inhalation and exhalation control training in the astronauts as well. So this is very, very basic
Okay.
overview. What I'm telling you is not even 1% of what actually happens in the space stations. It's like
Oh my
a
God.
lot much more than that. It is just a gist, so that you know that wow, you have such an amazing role in this field. That's it.
It's really very fascinating to know all this because in theory or in bachelor's we are not aware. Like I was not aware about so much things.
So I'm
So
glad
it's very
it can add up to any one of yours knowledge.
definitely, ma'am. Just a question came in my mind. In case, in space, the costume which the astronaut is wearing, if that leaks out or if anything's happened, so what can astronaut do in emergency to
See, they
prevent from lung collapse?
See, that is what I actually spoke about. Till the time it is not being managed, okay, you have to keep on doing exhalation, because if you stop doing
Okay.
exhalation, and if you inhale or hold your breath, this instead of this, you have to do forceful exhalation, so that you're able to maintain the pressure outside the spacesuit and within your circuit to prevent the barotrauma. That is where you have to have a very good diaphragmatic strength and everything. That
Okay.
is what I actually explained. Till the time, of
Okay.
course, this will not be. There is a lot of other emergency setups over there. Till the time you're not able to reset, or re correct the mechanism or the emergency condition, or control the emergency situation. This is what the training is. That is what I said. More than the lung strength, it is the first thing that they should know is how to manage themselves in emergency situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Because the emergency care has not been like in the syllabus also during the bachelor's. I didn't
Yes.
saw such, but you told that is very
That is why we
outstanding,
say that
ma'am.
keep yourself updated with the latest researches and evidences. Syllabus
Yes,
doesn't
ma'am.
change every day, but researches are
Hmm.
happening every day.
Exactly, ma'am. That was very thoughtful and thankful of you for sharing such beautiful insights.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, so the next question is, are there any specific devices which astronauts use for their lungs to train their lungs?
That is what I just told you.
Okay, yeah.
We just discussed
Yes.
about that. The devices, and of
So,
course, you can add the respiratory muscle strength trainers
hmm,
in addition to those devices, so that you can, you can have a respiratory muscle strengthening along with the general musculoskeletal strengthening. So, the
hmm,
devices are the same. It is just devised in a way which is gravity, which can be helpful in the gravity eliminated or in the microgravity situations. That's it. As like, for
okay, okay.
example, treadmill with harness training on that, or resistive devices, or cycle ergometer, resistive devices instead of your weight training, or cycle ergometer without vibration, like isolation of the vibrations, like that. So you have
Mm,
different various T2 treadmill is what we call. So you have different devices for these things. So it's like
okay.
specially devised for this, and we have discussed in detail about that. Definitely, there is
Yes,
a
ma'am.
much more detailed thing about it, but we cannot cover everything today. But
Yes,
definitely in
ma'am.
future we can take one single topic and speak on hours about that.
True, ma'am. Ma'am, so astronauts don't carry any devices along with them. They are just trained in the Earth.
They see. Tell me one thing. I'll ask you one question. If you are going on a field, do you train yourself while playing, or do you train yourself before playing?
Before playing, ma'am, definitely.
Right. So
Yes,
preparation
ma'am.
is important, and definitely,
Yes,
of
ma'am.
course, there are some emergency this thing where you have to control it, but the thing is, you are continuously with a mask. Where
Mm-hmm.
will you cannot remove it. So that is why pre-rehab should be so strong that you are able to have, when you train an athlete, it is, of course, they should know the basic warm down, cool down, everything that we do after the sport mechanism. But the pre-training should be so strong that you should not have that thing. That the question that you asked is the answer for that. The pre-training designs, the design of your pre-training is very important. And
Okay.
definitely, they do have, we do tell them the set of exercises that they're supposed to do when they are going into the space atmosphere as well. Of course, you cannot just sit idle. You
Mm.
have to keep moving the muscle in a certain way that the strength and endurance is not getting affected, because sometimes the travel schedule is much longer than the normal travel schedule. Like, suppose if you're being in space for a longer duration, definitely the effect of the exercises reduces. If you don't, we know that if you don't if you're doing a certain strength training or a resistance training, if you don't do it for a certain period of time, like 72 hours or 1 week, then definitely the all the results will start getting reversed back. So that is why you have to give them, of course, something as we call as home program. There is a
Mm-hmm.
space program that you have to give
Okay.
them. It's a huge protocol that we cannot definitely define now exactly in detail, but yes, we have a space program that they have to follow when they go there as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
great,
basic
ma'am.
mechanism for your muscles. Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. So now we have last question, ma'am. What's that one surprising fact about lung training in space that most people are not aware of?
This is actually what I started with. I will repeat it again. The most surprising fact is that your entire body is affected when you are in space, or when you are in a gravity eliminated area, except for your lungs. Lung
Okay.
is the least affected when you are going off gravity. As if you will see, the lung capacities, the tidal volume, it is very minorly affected even in the gravity eliminated area. So this gives us an added advantage. So if you are not able to design a protocol along with this, like suppose for
Hmm.
example, if there is 50% of effect on your musculoskeletal system, the effect on the lungs is only 20% when it comes to volumes and capacities. And that is the reason people are able to survive if they have a very good pre-rehabilitation structure in the space for a longer duration. Because
Okay.
lung is quite space friendly when it comes to such, because as I said, the pooling is down when we are in the
Hmm.
gravity, the ventilation and the perfusion. But as soon as the gravity is eliminated, this is evenly distributed. The only thing that occurs is the upward shift of the fluid, which we have to manage. So,
Okay.
as compared to your heart, still lung is less affected. But yes, we have to also understand that it works with the muscles as well. So, but muscles are affected. So this is what it goes hand into hand. So the surprising fact is also a depressing fact because again it is interrelated with all the other
Yes, ma'am.
mechanics of your body. And the second surprising fact is physiotherapy plays a very important role in space training.
Definitely,
So,
ma'am.
yes. So, for those who don't know, it is definitely a surprising fact that go and do more research about how it works. If you are looking for what to get enrolled into a space training, being a space astronaut, physiotherapy, a therapist working in NASA is really a beautiful thing that you can go ahead. We have some Indian physios who are working in NASA. Dr. Garima is there, and many more physios now are taking interest into this field as well. So you should really think about this. I always say the physios, this is again out of context, that don't go with the crowd. Just see where the
Hmm.
crowd is not going and go in that empty lane and create a crowd for yourself. Then only
Wow.
one day there will be some Vibha interviewing you.
Definitely, ma'am. This
So
was very, very informative session, ma'am, for all of
thanks.
us, because these were the basic things you told, but it were something out of the box for the bachelors or for the aspiring students. I feel like.
I'm glad. I'm glad. So I hope this really helps you all. And of course, you need to do a lot of more research. This is, as I said, not even 1% of what we do, but we do have a time limit. So at least you should know that you have some role. Now, do go and do your homework. Go and do your research work. You're in one of the most beautiful field. I would say, again, out of context, Riba, you know, whatever you do, you're blinking your eyes, you're breathing, you sneeze, you move, I'm talking to you in every part of your body, let it be your eyesight, whatever, ocular muscles, there is an exercise involved. And there is where you have to hit as a physiotherapist. You are in the most beautiful profession where you have the entire human body to work on. What else do you want? Now it's your choice what you
Hmm.
select. That's it.
How do we take it? That's
Yeah,
important.
exactly. How do you explore it? How do you take it? And how you try to think out of the box? That's all. I started cardiopulmonary rehabilitation when people were not even moving ahead of chest vibration, percussions, and everything. So it's like it's been 16 years in this field, and I started teaching pulmonary advanced pulmonary rehabilitation back in 2012 when people were not even aware that there is a lot of things ahead than your chest percussion, vibration, breathing exercise, mobilization, flutter, a cappella, and center spirometer. This is what you read. So I teach beyond this. Right?
Wow.
So that is what you need to learn. You need to go a step ahead than what you learn in the book. I always tell my students, if you are here to learn these things, then don't waste your money. If you want to learn something more than this, where you can really feel good about being a cardiopulmonary physio and have your own clinical setup, you can go across the world and treat the patients, then come over to me. So this is how you should be thinking in whatever field you are. You need to think out
Okay.
of the box. And you all are a blessed generation with AI, Google search, and all. WhatsApp came in 2012. Before that, we started it. So, use it wisely. That's it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, definitely. So, thank you, ma'am, for joining and sharing your beautiful and insightful knowledge with all of us. It was
Thanks.
definitely very helpful for us. And
Thanks.
to all of the subscribers who are watching, if you all got any doubt, you can text Dr. Samana, ma'am, or to me on Instagram. I will put down ma'am's Instagram link in the description box. So, you are feel free to reach out to us.
Thank
And
you. Thank you, Eva, for this beautiful session. And thanks to all those who have messaged, and you can put your doubts. We will keep in touch. Thank you so
yes,
much.
ma'am.
And all the best to all of
Thank you,
you.
ma'am, for joining. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, dear.